So good morning. I'm Sam Connell. I'm the Assistant Manager of Adult Services at New Canaan Library. I know a lot of you guys through Open Tech and a lot of the tech instruction classes. Today we're talking about tech security, so I'm really excited. I'd like to introduce James Ludy. He's one of our adult services librarians. Most of you probably have already met him through Open Tech and some of our other tech events. He's really fantastic, and I'm really glad he's here today to talk to you about a really important topic. There's a lot to cover, so just feel free to drop questions in the chat and we will get to them. So good morning, James.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sam. Thank you for the introduction. I think now is about good to get started. You say so?
Yeah, let's do
it. So welcome to Tech Tuesdays. Today's presentation is going to be on tech security. Tech security, as I see it, is basically how to protect your online accounts and your personal devices. How do you secure them from people who you haven't authorized to access them? And the way that you do that is to use best practice guidelines when you're setting up the security for your accounts and your devices, and to also become aware of the kind of hacks and scams that people will try and use to get information that might let them access your accounts or to try and take control of your accounts. So today we're going to kind of do a broad overview of what tech security is. And we're going to start with an information safety overview. We're going to talk about how you actually go about securing your information for most accounts and for some of your personal devices. We're going to talk about how to recognize scamming and hacking and those kind of attempts and how to avoid them to further protect your accounts and devices. And then we're going to also mention how to report scams that you've noticed and how to recover if you become the victim of an internet crime or a scam that has maybe compromised your personal information, your accounts, or your personal devices. So personal information safety is the kind of bedrock of tech security. It's the foundation of it. It's important to understand exactly what information is important to you when it comes to technology. For most of us, it's kind of an obvious thing. We know things that are important to us and aren't for public consumption: social security number, credit card number, banking information, legal information, personal details of family information, those kind of things. We know that stuff is certain things are not for the public to view and is dangerous to our own security if that got out there. The issue is using technology so often as we do these days is that there are a lot of services that are either critical to our everyday lives or just so convenient to us that we have to entrust certain pieces of that information to these companies or organizations so that we can do business with them or that we can conduct transactions. So being able to identify what information is important to you is important in that sense because you're going to be putting that information out there, which is the second point here, which is understanding what kind of information you have out there. There's obviously the information that you've given out to people that you trust or companies that you've authorized to, but there is some crossover between information that's important to you and information that's out there that you need to be aware of, which is basically some personal details are going to be public facing already. And understanding that that kind of information is already out there is important for your tech security and your personal information safety, because those details could be either things that are just public facing in general, that just things that people can look up about you, or they could be things that you're posting about on social media, if you're posting about your family or some just general information about yourself or things like that. When there's crossover between these two, there can be some issues because sometimes the information that's important to us and the information that we've been posting about on social media or that we've on Facebook or something like that, there could be some crossover. Like if you're using family names or pet names as passwords or security question answers, but you're also posting about them in social media or places where other people can look at it, that can be an issue because now that information that wasn't important to you in the same way as your social security number or your banking information can become important to you because of how you're using that information to secure it, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the next 2 points, which is how is your information being secured and who has your information. We've actually got slides on those. So your information is, as most of us know, it's being secured in accounts. You give it to an organization or something that has an online component, and it's stored basically in an account. The way to access the account is usually with a password or some other security features. And the way that you kind of secure it is by setting security settings. When you create it or at any time when you access the account, you can change some security settings. There's also the other end is kind of the company or organization security. That's how is that information being stored on their servers, or if there's paperwork, where is that stored, or kind of how it's being encrypted. But we can't really affect that. That's not really something we have access to or can influence. So when we're talking about information security in this sense, we're focusing pretty plainly on the security settings that we can actually take control of on our devices and accounts. And then there's also information safety, which is how you use your technology is going to determine how secure that information can be. This goes for devices as well. If you are using your device and you're using your laptop at the library and you leave yourself signed in, and you get up and you go to use the restroom, or you go outside to go pick something up and you just leave your computer signed in. If someone comes by and takes that, they might have access to any information you have on that device, any accounts that you have signed in already. And that's a security breach, regardless of what kind of information you've hidden behind protections. Also, if you're online and you're browsing risky websites, or you're doing things that maybe you're looking for a free video or something, depending on what you're doing, you could be engaging in risky behavior that might influence the kind of things that you'll be seeing, and will influence the kind of security you might expect when it comes to securing your information. And who has your information is another important part of kind of the personal information safety kind of landscape. Because as I mentioned before, there are people who you've authorized to have that information. You've created an account with someone, or you've done business, or you've done some transactions. Like, you've authorized that company or organization to have access to whatever information you needed to set up that. There's also third parties can sometimes have your information. If you've ever fallen for a scam, or you've given information out and you're not sure where that's been, when you're kind of looking at your information landscape, kind of what information that you think might be out there about you, or security information that might have somehow leaked out, you have to be aware that if it's leaked out before, that kind of information might be compromised. So if a password is leaked out before, that password might not be safe to use anymore, because somebody might know that you've used this password before in some account. And there's actually a website here that I'm going to show you, which is kind of on the company side, which is Have I Been Pwned? And what this does is it checks to see if your email or phone has been caught in a data breach. So companies, when they have your information, they sometimes will get hacked, or sometimes they will not have been securing your information properly. And that can lead to data breaches, where private information that you've entrusted to a company or corporation or organization leaks out onto the wider internet, or is available for someone to look at. And this website kind of keeps track of if your email or phone number has been caught up in one of those data breaches. So if I look at my work email, which is, I search for it, there's no detection of this being caught up in any of the data breaches that the person who runs this website is aware of. They're a Microsoft security specialist, I believe. But if I am the proud owner of email@gmail.com, and I put my email in there, it looks like email@gmail.com has been caught in 250 data breaches, and the information about accounts with this kind of email address have been pasted to the internet 984 times. If you scroll down, you can see information about specific breaches or potential breaches and what may or may not have leaked here. So if you want to kind of have an idea of if any of your accounts that have to start with that involve your email or your phone have been leaked out, or any of that, what kind of information might be at risk, you can check with this site, which I do from time to time with my own accounts. Depending on the kind of company, normally a company, if they've experienced a data breach, they'll reach out and inform you and say that there's been a data breach, but it doesn't hurt to check on your own to see if there might have been something that went wrong at one point or another. And at that point, we're actually going to move away from just kind of the basic foundational understanding of information security. And then we're going to actually go into how do you secure your information? When you're setting up your accounts and you're looking at security settings, what you do to make sure that those are as secure as possible so that people can't access what you've chosen to protect. And the best way to do that is setting strong passwords and PIN numbers for your accounts and devices, if you're implementing security questions on your accounts, you want to make sure those are strong security questions. You're going to want to install updates. Make sure you have some kind of antivirus software and understand what that does and kind of how it works if it's on your personal devices. And to enable two-factor authentication whenever you can, and we'll be talking about that later. So when you're creating a strong password and a PIN for your devices or your accounts, the way to do that is the best practice way is to make sure that the passwords are at least 12 characters long. You're going to want to use a mix of numbers, letters, and symbols in order to ensure that it is difficult for someone who doesn't already know the password to guess it or to have a program guess it for them. PIN numbers can be a little different. PIN numbers can be pretty short, 4 to 6 characters long is fine from what I've understood from my research. But they need to be a strong combination and not fall under kind of the bad password and PINs idea. And I have a link here to the top 200 most common passwords from Nordpass. And this basically, they work with a bunch of other security companies to see what are the most common passwords. And these are passwords that if your password is on here, it is a very bad thing because this is something that people trying to guess passwords will have programs that will try and automatically fill in information and guess it for you. And if your password is on here, it's almost the same as having no password because it's that easy for someone to gain access to that account, or at least have the password, which is the first step into getting into most accounts, depending on your security setup. So if you're kind of doing a security checkup, you're going to want to take a look and see, are any of my passwords on these most common passwords lists, and are they a strong password that are going to be difficult to guess? You're going to want to also not reuse passwords. We talked previously, we were talking about data breaches. If you're using the same password in multiple places and a company suffers a data breach and that password isn't encrypted in any way, that will allow people to connect your password with potentially your account, significant information. If you're using the same email for multiple accounts, which email is generally one of the common account usernames. If you're using the same password and you have the same email, they're going to try and people can take those things and start going down the list of the popular websites that they might want to access and see if that might be the way to access your information. So you want to have unique passwords for pretty much everything. And you're going to want to keep passwords safe. A lot of us have password books, little booklets that have every password written down in it. It is probably a good idea if you're going out, if you're coming to the library to ask for help for something, for example, with an account, you probably don't want to bring the whole password book. You want to understand what account goes with which password, and you want to bring the relevant ones with you. You don't want to have all of your information in one basket and then bring it out into a public space. You also don't want those passwords to be directly next to the things that you need to access them. If you have your password and your username next to your computer, for example, just right up next to it, that might not be a great idea because someone could get into your house or take your computer. You don't have your information to get in right away. So you want to make sure your passwords are safe and kept in a safe place. There's also the issue that I have when I create many unique passwords that are difficult is that I can't remember them at all. So I've started using passphrases, which are like passwords, but they're made of phrases and numbers and special characters that I am able to remember a little bit better than just regular random number generation or random password generation that some other people will use. And it's basically you would make a phrase. So I put a couple sample ones here, like soda fountain bottle with a 1 for an L and an exclamation point, waterfall drive 21, $sign. And the way that you remember these is they're very random to anyone who's not you, but there's some kind of internal logic that you created for each of these kind of passphrases, like a story that will help you remember them. For example, waterfall drive 21 number, $sign is on one of my driving routes to get back to my home. I pass a small little waterfall that is near a house that's the 21st house on a street, and it's kind of near a bank. So if I'm driving past it, that's kind of how I remember it. I tell the story for myself. I'm driving home past the waterfall, the 21st house on the street near the bank. That's how I remember, oh, this is that password. I've actually found a lot of great success using these. I've remembered a lot of my passwords, and it's not completely random, which is an issue for some people when they make passwords. If it's just kind of offhand, they'll forget them because we're trying to remember so many things at once and we're only human. So little tricks like this definitely help you with your own security. And then security questions are very important too, because security questions, when you create an account, some accounts will basically ask you to create security questions that let you take back control of the account if something goes wrong, or if you forget the password, it'll ask you some security questions. So when you're setting security questions, you're going to make sure that there are a couple aspects of this that will ensure that your security is strong for the account. So they should be confidential. They should be things that you can't easily find out about yourself by doing a quick Google search or something like that. If it's, what's your pet name, and you're posting about your pet on Facebook, it's probably not a great security question. Where did you go to school? If you're having a conversation with, former schoolmates on some social media platform, or it's well known, or post about it a lot, or you're in the newspaper talking about it, probably not a good thing to use. You're going to make sure that it's things that is confidential, that is hard to figure out if it's not you knowing it. They should also be memorable. You don't want to pick something that you're going to forget. Don't create a riddle as a security question. You will not thank yourself for it later when you forget what you were thinking. I have created some riddle security questions and I've never gotten back into those accounts. So make sure that when you create a security question, the answer is something that you'll remember. It's consistent. It's not something that changes. If some security questions ask you, what's your favorite show, or what is your favorite XYZ? And the problem with favorites is sometimes that does change. So I've set an account, and one of my questions that I did was, what's your favorite show? But I created the account in 2010, and I don't know what my favorite show was in 2010 anymore. I have forgotten. So I can't get into that account if I forget the security question. So consistency is important. It should be something that really doesn't change. And it should be simple. Again, no riddles, nothing super tricky. Something that you understand and will be able to recall pretty simply. And also, if you have a chance, you want questions plural. You don't want there to be just one question. If that information leaked out somehow for question one for a security question to get into an account, you want to have the second question be something different, or have multiple ones so that people have to access different layers to get into the account. Another important part of tech security is updates. Updating your devices and your software is crucial to keeping your devices and accounts safe. Security companies and services, people who develop apps, your computer, PC, your iPhone, whatever you're using, a device, that if it connects to the internet, there might be some security vulnerabilities in the software or the programming. And the companies look for those vulnerabilities, things that might allow other people to access your devices, and they'll remove them by updating them. They'll put out some kind of code that they'll say you need to update this, and then you download it and it installs and you're fine. Then they can no longer use that somebody cannot use that vulnerability to get into your accounts or do anything like that. If you're running outdated software, if you just say no to every update, that can be dangerous, because if it's a security update or something like that, the company is going to proceed forward thinking that that issue is solved. If people are developing software to get into accounts and devices, assuming that that issue has not been solved and your device has not been updated, then you could fall victim to some kind of intrusion into your devices, and your security would be greatly impacted by that. So if you update your computers, your Macs, iPhones, Androids, iPads, update everything the second you get a chance. Older hardware sometimes cannot support new updates. This is a fact just because of data space concerns, things like that. And you can use those devices and that software, but you have to do so understanding that because it's not supported and is not receiving updates anymore, you are running a risk that you could be compromised in a way that your protections might not work against, just because the company has stopped looking for those vulnerabilities. It has moved on with its responsibilities. So that's an informed decision that you make, and depending on your browsing habits or your how you use your devices and where you use them, it could be okay. I mean, how you use your devices, and that kind of thing. So it's a personal choice to make about if you're going to still use a really old phone or something like that. There's also antivirus software is important. Antivirus, most of us understand what it does, but for people who might not have the understanding completely for what it does is, it detects and prevents malicious software from making changes to your technology and your devices. Oftentimes, antivirus is built into major hardware platforms meaning your PC or your Macs, things like that. And you can purchase subscription antivirus from third parties who specialize in that kind of thing. But that's actually a point of contention among security specialists that I have found, is that the question of, do you need a subscription antivirus? If you're using an Apple product as your primary device, if you're using an iPad, Mac, or iPhone, you probably don't need it, depending on your kind of habits and your how you search through the internet and things like that. The Apple environment here, meaning just kind of the hardware that Apple puts out, the kind of system that they have, is very resistant to the kind of hacking attempts and software intrusion attempts that normally people create. There's a bigger market for malware on PCs. So a lot of people devote their time creating that kind of malware, and people try and create malware for the Apple products, but the kind of reality is most malware is for Microsoft and PC products, things like that. If you're using a Windows PC or an Android phone, you probably don't need subscription antivirus, because Microsoft does come with a antivirus built in. It's Windows Defender, and it's actually a pretty decent piece of security software. If you keep it updated, if you update your computer when it asks you to, it should keep you safe as long as you're not, browsing illicit websites or you're trying to do something that's risky, things like that. You should be fine. But then again, your search habits, the kind of things that you've encountered over time. You might also be using a subscription antivirus, and you might like the extra features it has. And that's totally fine. It's a personal decision. But if you're worried about, oh, do I really need an antivirus for my computer? I don't have one, and I feel really shaken up about it. You probably do, in fact, have a built-in one if it's a Windows PC. And then Mac also has their own one as well. But the environment for Apple products is also pretty safe in general. So that's just a point about security, is you just want to make sure that's updated. You want to make sure that antiviruses are updated at all times. And if you do have subscription antivirus, keep it updated as well. That's going to keep your devices safe. And then two-factor authentication is actually probably the most important thing I want to talk about when it comes to keeping your devices safe. Two-factor authentication it adds an additional layer of security to your accounts. So most accounts used to be, you have a username and you have a password, those things, and then you can get into your account. Sometimes it will ask you, sometimes you would set security questions that you also have to answer, and then you can get into your account. That was not secure enough for the modern day. So a while ago, people started saying you need more forms of authentication to actually get you into accounts. So what this does is it just adds an additional layer. And there's 4 types of two-factor authentication that are pretty common these days. There's biometric. You might have used this already if you have an Apple product or you have a fingerprint reader on your phone. If you've got an Apple product that scans your face, or you've just got a fingerprint scanner kind of thing on your phone, that's a biometric security pass kind of thing, where it needs you to have a password or a PIN, and sometimes it will also require you to, put your fingerprint on it. If I was trying to get into your device and you had a fingerprint requirement to get in, I would be out of luck because I do not have your fingerprint handy on me. And I also don't have your face handy with me, so I won't be able to sneak into your account. There's token. Tokens are less commonly used. It's a physical, actual object that you have to have, that you insert into a device when you try and access a website or kind of a secure area. Sometimes the government will require some of these for people who work for certain departments, just kind of like a USB drive or something that you put in while you're trying to access an account. They're not too common in the kind of private kind of individual lives. I rarely see people use these. The most common one I've seen is the SMS/texting two-factor authentication. This is you basically give an account your phone number, and then when someone tries to sign into it, it basically sends your phone a text with a code, and you enter that code, and then it will let you in. This is very commonly used. I've used it plenty of times, and it's considered to be one of the less secure versions of two-factor authentication because of clever hackers can kind of spoof your texting numbers, kind of. But unless if you're being specifically targeted by like a group of people who are trying to get into your accounts, it should be decent security for you if you're uncomfortable using any of these other types of security, or that you don't have an option to do so. And there's the last one is Authenticator Apps. This is probably the most secure one that most people use in their everyday life if they do tend to use two-factor authentication. And that is how to basically you download an application onto your phone from a trusted application, and it will send codes to that app that you have to sign into to get the codes to access it. So it's like texting, but it's behind a different layer of security. So it's not just like I need to have my phone or I need to have my texting address. It's I need to have my phone and I need to know how to get into this application on my phone to get the code. And you want to make sure a lot of accounts actually these days will ask you to put in your phone number for two-factor authentication or something like that. But if you've already had it for a while, you might not have enabled it. So I urge you to enable this because this is a great way to really secure your accounts. And if your devices have an option to, depending on what device it is, definitely you can do that as well. But usually it's just for accounts. This is a great way to do it. And this is kind of just an example of two-factor authentication. You know, you have the password and then you have to have a second factor to get in. I have a website here. It's PC Magazine, I believe, has an updated as of April 27, 2021 about how to secure online accounts using two-factor authentication. It goes through a lot of the popular websites that have two-factor authentication and shows you where to activate that if it's not activated already, like Amazon, your Apple ID, Dropbox, Facebook, things like that. And I'm going to include a link to this in a sheet that I'm with a bunch of other links that I've used during the presentation. I'm going to probably send that out tomorrow sometime to everybody on everybody who joined to your email addresses. So you don't have to worry about getting the address to this. You'll have it tomorrow. But I urge you to, if you're using online accounts, to enable two-factor authentication. That's one of the best ways to be secure when you are creating an account. And then kind of on the opposite side of this is to being secure with your technology is going to require you to understand the kind of ways that people are going to try and get into that technology. If you have done all of those previous kind of steps, if you set up two-factor authentication, if you have a strong password, if you're keeping your devices updated, it's difficult for people to actually get into your accounts at this point. So the best way for them to get into these accounts is to either have you just give them the information they need to access it, or to install something onto your devices that harvest that information that you're using to get into your accounts and other important information, and then send it to them. And so it's important to be aware of the kind of scams and social engineering methods that these people use to deliver these kind of attacks and get your trust to get that information. So we're going to look at some basic rules for being aware of certain scams, how to identify internet scams, email safety, how to identify certain phone scams, and how to report a scam or internet crime, and then how to recover from those. So when it comes to scams, the number one rule is to protect your information at all times. Whenever someone is interacting with you online or by phone, you need to be aware that maybe they want some information, but the first sign of a warning is that someone wants information. So if it triggers your kind of response of, oh, this is information that is not something I want to give out normally, that should be a sign for you to start paying attention. Another thing is you don't want to rush to action. A lot of these scams and confidence tricks are going to try and add an element of haste or kind of deadlines, saying like the police will be, dispatched to you in, a day, or you'll lose your license in a couple of hours if you don't, make this payment or submit this information, or you'll lose complete access to your account in, 25 minutes or something like that. That's the kind of thing that you're going to want to also think. It's designed to make you stop thinking very clearly and to rush and to make rash decisions, which will not help you out when it comes to keeping your information secure. Another major rule is to not trust any information given to you in unsolicited calls, texts, and emails. Unsolicited here means if you haven't contacted an organization or an app or whatever, and you've said, I want information or I want a response about some issue I'm having with my account or something, and you get an email from them, you've solicited that information. You say, I want a response, please inform me about this. They send you an email back or some communication, and they might ask you for information. In that case, you initiated a conversation with the company or organization and they're responding. That's fine. If out of nowhere you get a communication from an organization or from someone claiming to be from an organization or claiming to be the organization, asking you for all your account information or specific pieces of personal data that you're not comfortable giving, you should be very cautious about that. You should also not believe what is in the communication. If it says this is the number to call, you should be very suspicious, because that might, if it's not from the real company, that's probably not the real number that the company, that's not a real company number that could be going anywhere. If they say this link will take you to a place where you can reset your account safely, that might not be where that link takes you. That might be just a place where they can steal your information. So you want to be very careful with unsolicited requests for information from people claiming to be from companies or people you know. If anything asks you to pay in gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrencies, along with asking for personal information, that should be a big warning sign. Those are very difficult to trace and reverse with methods of payment. So it's kind of if someone's asking you for, your Amazon account information, and also for, the fee that for the late fee for whatever is going to be paid via wire transfer. Maybe hit the brakes on that one and take a look at what exactly is going on there. Things that are too terrible to be true or too good to be true. Your entire family's been kidnapped and some police station in a foreign country needs you to wire them some money. Maybe contact those family members, maybe reach out to them before you wire the money. If your license is about to be revoked because of unpaid, parking tickets out of nowhere that you're just getting an email about, and you don't think you had any parking tickets, and it has to be paid right now, maybe, hesitate and think about that. Try contacting those people, not trusting anything in the email or communication that you've just gotten out of the blue. You've won a cruise or something like that. Common sense in this case. That they're generally the way, again, rushing to action is how they try and avoid this kind of thing. They'll say there's an issue or a great opportunity, and you've only got minutes or days to claim it. That's the kind of way that these kind of scams will work. And you want to look for suspicious mistakes. If it's, we'll get into this a little bit more, but communications that don't come from actual companies or organizations will oftentimes have a lot of spelling or grammar or just weird formatting, because it's not going through the PR, it's not going through the kind of the people that normally catch these things. It's just people putting out scams. So here are a couple of the internet scams that I think, and that other people and other security experts have thought are pretty damaging to your online account and your tech security. There's phishing, which is where somebody pretends to be from an organization or someone you trust, and they're looking for information that will allow them to get around your protections or security. There's fake merchandise ads in online stores, commonly used to just kind of steal some money from you, sometimes used to steal your credit card number. Depending on what they ask you to, though, if you're creating an account with them, they might sell your fake account information to other people who are trying to do scams, because that might be something that is valuable information for them. There's fake tech support and security scams. We'll talk about that in more detail, but that's when That's when people pretend to be with a major company for hardware or software like Microsoft or Apple, and so that they've detected a virus on your devices and that you need to contact them in order for them to fix it. Sometimes they'll ask for information in order to do so. And there's also fake news, jobs, and opportunity scams, which are basically, we'll cover that more. I have slides for all of these just to kind of show you some examples of what these look like. But fake news and jobs and opportunity scams are scams that will try and urge you to make some easy money or to kind of subscribe to something. And generally there'll be some kind of form of stealing from you or harvesting information, depending on what kind of their fake applications are going to ask you for. And there is a great, so the AARP has a great, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of them. I cannot cover all of them. There's a ton, they're changing every day. AARP has a great scams and fraud section, which again, I'll include the link in the sheet I'm going to send tomorrow, but it's great section. You can scroll down and they have a list of tons of different versions of scams, as well as ways to like how to, like, warning signs for them, do's and don'ts when you encounter them. For example, updating account scams. This is a great article, just kind of what to look out for, warning signs, and how to, kind of react to these when you see them, or if something you're not sure if something might be an account scam, you can come here and take a look. Highly recommend that. Just before I go into the actual presentation, this is a great resource because I'm not going to be able to cover every kind of scam that you might have encountered. This is a good resource for you to kind of look at. But here's some phishing scams. These are primarily in emails. The one on the left was sent to us fairly recently. It has some elements that I talked about before. It's from the info@newcanaanlibrary.org, which is not a email that is kind of real, but it is something that a new person to the desk might say, oh, this might be real. And what this wanted us to do is download some files, which would probably have delivered ransomware or some kind of thing that would, track to see, get into our device and see what it could do and find to get into accounts. You can see that the formatting is kind of odd. It's trying to urge you to quickly act. It says the files are going to be deleted on December 2nd. I think I got this on December 1st. So that's an example of kind of what you might look for. On the right is an account update scam, which is asking you to update your Netflix payment details, which would basically steal your credit card number and whatever kind of password or username there. If you click anything on this, it would take you to fake websites that they set up and would just harvest your information and steal your credit card information. And if you called the number on the bottom, I believe that would just lead to some fake call center where they would pretend to be Netflix and they would steal your information. So when it comes to phishing, you want to look out for weird mistakes. For the Netflix one, the opening is "Hi dear," which is not a normal way for a company to address you at all. And when it comes to these kind of account update scams, you can always just, if it says that there's a problem with your account, you can always just try and sign into your account normally, and try and trigger a reset that way. You don't have to go through these emails or these things. You just, it's better to be cautious than to make a mistake like that. Here is some fake stores examples. These stores are difficult to get examples for because when they get caught, they go down. So ways to kind of figure out if you're on a fake or real store is if you look at the web page of a store, if it has a little lock icon on it, that means it's in a format. The website is basically hard to explain this, but if there is no lock and it's not a certain kind of web page domain, it's very risky to shop on that store. So if you just look up and you don't see the lock on the name of the store or the name of the website, you probably don't want to shop there. You want to be very careful. You want to also check to see if it's the actual website. Sometimes these fake stores will be very close to the original website, or they'll be like Amazon, but like maybe there'll be a second N, or there'll be 2 O's or something like that, something that you might not notice off the bat. The prices will be way too good. If it's the newest items that a company or a clothing brand has released, and it's a fourth of the price, and they were released 2 weeks ago, maybe take a look at that. And it's that kind of thing. And also payment information. If it's only accepting pay in cryptocurrencies or wire transfers, you want to hold off on that. That might be something that they that's a good sign that it's a scam store. And if you try and create an account to make a payment there, that information, whatever information you entered, is probably going to go to other people. They're going to sell that information to other scammers who will try and use it to access your accounts. The tech support scams, these ones are really nasty. You might have encountered these if you're just browsing the internet. They tend to freeze your browser so you can't get out of them. And then they claim that there's some kind of virus or issue with your computer that you have to immediately contact the tech support people at whatever number they give. They will generally try and either sell you fake antivirus products, or they'll try and convince you that there is a fake virus on your computer and that you have to pay money to fix it. In the process of this kind of scam, they will oftentimes ask you for account information, or they'll ask you to download something onto your computer that lets them take control of your mouse or your computer screen so that they can show you the virus. And at that stage, they can download whatever they really want onto your computer. They can download software that tracks what you enter on your keys, or they can see like what you do. They can monitor what you're doing. So if you sign into your bank account after that, they might have your bank account information. So you really want to not be very cautious when these pop up and in your browsers and you can't X out. If you're worried about that, you can shut down the computer, restart it, and run a virus scan and see what goes on there, or talk to somebody you trust who might know computers a little bit or devices a little bit more if you're uncertain if it's not real or not. Whatever numbers they give on these, not real. It's going to be a scam almost 100% of the time. It's going to be a scam. And whenever someone asks you to download something onto your computer or to hand over your computer access, that's a huge warning sign. You really want to be very cautious, unless if you've initiated that conversation, unless if you've called Microsoft and they've said okay, and you've looked up their actual number online. This is the real Microsoft number. You've called the real Microsoft number and said, I need somebody to help me with whatever problem. In that case, you might want to go forward with it, but you really want to be careful with these, because these are really nasty ones. If you fall for this, it can keep happening to you. They can keep doing really nasty things to your devices and really compromise your security. Fake jobs and kind of information scams. These will generally just try and steal your credit card information. Sometimes they'll try and steal your account information. If you're applying for a job that's going to earn $1,000 a week guaranteed, work from home, whatever, depending on what their application asks, they could steal some other information from you. Just be on the lookout for these. Same kind of thing for websites. If it's say like an article, the one on the top right about the moms found a solution to fight back against coronavirus. There was something like this that was published on a fake website that looked like Fox News, but it wasn't really trying to do was just trying to scam people into buying some fake product that didn't exist and harvest whatever information they gave. So just be on the lookout. And then on the bottom right is it's a follow-up scam example. It's people who have been, who've lost money or information. Sometimes they're trying to find ways to get it back, and it's difficult to do so. So people will sometimes say, oh, this is real, this is the ray of hope. You can just follow this and do this, and it's easy. That's kind of fake news and an opportunity, because this person is just going to steal your money again. You just have to kind of be very cautious about that. When people are if you've been scammed, people will try and scam you again, and it's very rough. But these aren't as dangerous as tech support scams, or as fake merchandise scams or phishing. But if you do realize that you're on one of these websites, or you're following one of these, you want to just kind of disengage. We're going to quickly go over email safety. Basic email safety things. Again, there's a lot of different types of email scams, but Don't open attachments, download or trust questionable information. If you get an email that's just an attachment, don't open that attachment, especially if you don't know what it's from. Don't download anything from that email. Don't click on any links in those emails. There's no reason for you to do so. They could take you anywhere. They could do anything. Just don't engage with those. Especially, again, anything from an unknown sender, caution, you know, it's not worth it. The curiosity is not worth it. Also, you want to watch out for weird emails from people that you know, because they might have been hacked. At the desk, sometimes we get emails from patrons who have messaged us before, or who we've messaged for other things, asking us if we have Amazon accounts. And this is because their email has been compromised. Somebody has gotten into their email account, and they are now using that email account to send information, send fake emails to all of their contacts down the contact list, trying to get them to send them Amazon gift cards or some kind of product or security information, things like that. So if someone you know has sent you an email that is asking for something that they've never asked for before, is asking for weird information that you've never given or that you're not comfortable giving, try and contact them in some other way that's not email, and let them know that, ask them if, hey, did you send this? If someone sends you someone you trust sends you an email saying, hey, can you look at my will? And you're like, and that's completely out of the blue, download this thing, document, it says it's your will. Give them a call and be like, did you send this document to me? Because if not, that could be a way that somebody's using to try and gain access to your accounts, or to gain access to information that they might use to access your accounts or to break into your devices. And you always want to set up recovery and security features for your email accounts. If your email gets lost, or if it gets hacked somehow, you want to be able to get that email account back. That's all going to be found in your account settings for your email. More warning signs for email scams: suspicious mistakes in emails. If emails are littered with bad spelling, punctuation, things like that, or just have a ton of URLs and you're not really sure where it's from, it's probably a scam. You don't want to click things. You don't want to really follow it. If you get emails asking, to purchase gift cards or cryptocurrencies, again, don't want to interact with those. Not really helpful. If loan attachments or files, step 4, don't trust that. Emails sent from non-standard company or personal emails, kind of like websites where things will be 1 or 2 characters off. Look for, if someone sent you an email, or an organization sent you an email asking for information, and you look at the email where it's actually sent from, see if that's the same email address that they've sent emails to you before. If not, if it's 1 or 2 off, it's probably a scam. You might want to try and contact that company and ask them, what's going on. And account issue emails that you just get in the that you just received, always check to see if you can sign into your account normally before you start looking at those, because you can normally resolve account issues other ways, or you can contact whatever company or organization it is and ask if there's an actual issue with your account or your payment or your billing. You can usually do that. Phone scams, we got to go over this quickly, because people will try and take information from you via the phone to use to get into your accounts and your devices. Watch out for unsolicited calls. Just don't pick them up. Automated sales calls when you're on the do not call list are a good sign that whatever that is probably a scam. If during the course of a phone call, someone who claims to be representing a company starts becoming unprofessional, threatening you or swearing, things like that, it's a good sign that that's probably not a person working for a major company, because that kind of behavior generally doesn't tend to keep people employed. If whoever is calling you and asking for your information or your help demands that you send payment in gift cards, or you send a MoneyGram or a wire transfer, again, not easily reversible payment forms. So you don't want that that's generally a sign that whatever is happening on the phone might not be legitimate. If someone just sends you a random text and with just a link or a document download, don't click it, don't download it. Downloading attachments and clicking on links is a great way to get viruses, or just to be taken to places you don't want to be. It's just best to avoid those. And then if you get silent calls, or calls that just say, can you hear me? This is a kind of way that people gain access to accounts, because if you say yes to a can you hear me call, people can record that and then use that as proof that you approved a charge or approved a transaction. They were really big a little while ago. I'm not sure if they've dropped off or not, but you don't want to answer a call that says, "Can you hear me?" with just yes. Say something else if it's someone you think you know, but be careful. Quick common phone scams that can really mess you up and take a lot of information from you. Government and utility impersonation scams. People pretend to be from the government. They'll say, "Oh, you missed jury duty," or it's the IRS, and we're here to take your entire life away from you because you missed a tax payment. Or it's a utility company saying you missed a payment and we need you to give us all this information. The government is generally going to contact you by mail first or some other kind of way. They're not going to reach out of the blue and say that by phone and just demand all of your information right away. Generally it's by mail. So be very cautious if someone claims to be from the IRS who calls you and just asks for all of your social security information. That's generally not going to happen. Medicare scams are very common too. They just want your Medicare information. They're going to say they have some miraculous product and it's cheap and free. If you're getting cold called about that, it might not be worth it to engage with it. It might be a scam. Tech support scams, they happen on the phone too. They will say that they've detected a virus on your computer or your device. And then they're going to want to eventually get control of your computer by saying that they need to install antivirus or they need to fix something. No company is going to call you and say they detected a virus on your device. That they don't do that. That's always a scam. It's not real. So don't fall for that. Don't give them any information. And then there's of course follow-up scams. If you've fallen for a scam before, scammers will occasionally pass around the information that you are about you and that you can fall for scams, and they'll try and sell that to people who will then try and scam you. It's not very nice and it's very rude of them to do so, but they will do that. General phone safety tips: don't answer calls from unknown numbers. Don't follow the instructions to be removed from call lists. It's generally not going to do that. It might do something else. Don't return a call with no message. It could be some kind of scam. It's important. They'll probably have left a message to you. Your caller ID is not infallible. You can spoof caller IDs, so you can make it seem like you're calling from a government number or from a number of someone you trust. I've gotten phone calls from my own phone before, which was not possible for many reasons. So if you answer a call from someone you think is legitimate and then it seems weird or odd, call them back on, look up the number yourself and call them and ask if there's an issue with whatever, and then see if that's actually a real thing. And if you're in doubt and you're kind of getting worried, you can just hang up. If it's a call and you're not sure if it's a scam or not, just say you're not comfortable, and you can hang up and then see if you can engage with it in a different way. So reporting a scam and internet crime, it's going to depend on, so your tech security is going to depend on what's going on here. If you've fallen for a scam or you want to report one, you want to make sure that you do it in the right place. The Internet Crime Complaint Center is a place where you can kind of just say that you've observed a scam or you've fallen for a scam online. If there's a tax return fraud that you've encountered, the IRS is who you want to contact. Depending on what information that you have given out, you want to contact the organizations that were involved in that, your credit card company, your bank. If it's social security number, you want to go to identitytheft.gov. If your identity has been stolen, identitytheft.gov is your one-stop shop. They'll basically tell you how to recover your identities. They'll give you plans and steps. Incredible website. Just tremendous for recovering your kind of safety. If your state consumer protection office, if it's something that happened in the state, and if it's like that scam that happened that like you lost your money and property along with information, the local police, you might call their non-emergency number and let them know, and they might have some advice for you. And then recovering from a scam, when you've been scammed and you've lost your control of your accounts or information like that, and you know that there's been some kind of, or there's been a data breach or something, and you think you're not safe, you want to reset your passwords. Check for any unapproved charges to make sure to see like how deep the damage went. Run security scans if it's on a device. If you think you might have had a virus or something, you can run security scans and see if there's any problem. You want to notify the appropriate people or organizations, again, credit card company if you've lost your credit card or someone's making charges, things like that. Examine what went wrong. You want to know you basically want to know where in your tech security kind of environment you might have made a mistake. Did you answer a scam? Did you give out a number that you weren't supposed to? Take a look at that, and then don't blame yourself. These people, when they want to get into your accounts, that's basically their full-time job. You're trying to get through the day. Everybody falls for something. It's really, you don't want to blame yourself too much. Just kind of look at what's going on, and then you know, forgive yourself for it. I've fallen for scams. It happens. So that's it. That's the basic kind of tech security overview. I'm going to take a look at some of the Q&A questions. Sam's also here. Let's see.
That was great. Thank you, James. Yeah, you have a bunch of questions that came in.
Yeah, let's see.
Somebody wants to know if you have two-factor authentication app suggestions. I don't remember if that was in your document.
I believe that is in the document. Let me double check. Let me see. Just go back to my two-factor authentication page. I believe that this page does have some suggestions for it. Yeah, the PC Magazine article has examples of the best kind of authenticator apps if you want to use one of those. I know that some people definitely who are very serious about their security, they only want to use authenticator apps. And it's kind of a lot to get into. It's a little too much for just a single class if I wanted to keep it under the hour mark. But yeah, you can check on the article. I don't have any kind of right away, but examples like offhand from ones I'd use, but I would check on the article and do some research on that. That's my answer, honestly. It's complicated.
There's another question from an anonymous attendee. Do you have to turn on two-factor authentication on your PC or in every site you access?
Good question. If it's on not every site you access, not your PC. It's mostly for your accounts. You know, when you create an account, if there's ever an option to turn on two-factor authentication, you want to turn it on. If your device gives you the option to do so and you think that you need to, then definitely do it. It's a huge way to make yourself more secure. If people get your password and they try and get in, and they don't have whatever you're using to authenticate that is actually you, they're stuck. And you'll probably get a notification from the company or from your account saying somebody tried to get in, and then that'll let you know I need to change my password. I've gotten somebody tried to sign into my Gmail account from China, but because they didn't have the authentication that they would need, I got a notification saying that we didn't let them in. I changed my password and I was fine. So that's just an example I have for that.
Another question, this is about if someone gets into your computer. If your computer was bugged, tracking your keystrokes, for example, how would you know and what should you do next?
So if your computer has already gotten a virus or some kind of thing that's tracking it, there are some signs that you can look out for. The most common one, depending on the kind of bug it is the computer will act slow. You'll have weird bookmarks in your online accounts or your web browser. Odd things will happen. It's difficult because there's so many different kinds of bugs that are checking that have been created and that can exist on a computer, that depending on the skill level of the person who created it, you know, that ranges from somebody in their basement just creating something in 10 minutes to, you know, a government funding some kind of virus. They're out there in the wild. But running security scans, running your antivirus scans is definitely the way to detect those things, keeping them updated and scanning for them. If you are worried that you might have one, take it to a computer security professional. We're not that at the library, but definitely, you know, reach out to somebody and say, you know, a professional, and say, I think there might be some kind of virus. Can you check this for me? And they'll know what to do. You definitely want to make sure that if you think your device is compromised, you want to make sure that you think you're in a safe place. So scans and then reaching out to professionals.
Thanks, James. Last question is from Mary. She wants to know if she receives an unsolicited call, should she automatically delete or block the number?
It depends on what the call is. If it's just a call, if you get an unsolicited call that it does depend. If you get an unsolicited call and it just goes and they don't say anything and it's just a call to your to your phone, and it's a one-time thing, I mean, you don't need to answer it and you don't need to call them back. You might not need to block it. If somebody keeps calling you from a number, block it. And if it's completely unsolicited and you just don't want to deal with it, you can just block it. You can delete it or block it. It's really up to you. If it's trying to sell you something, you want to block it. If it's looking for information, you want to block it. But it really does just depend on your kind of tolerance for those things. I get tons of car warranty scam calls all the time. I just delete them at this point. Blocking them doesn't matter. They just get a new number, but I should probably be blocking them in that case. I've gotten recalls from them and I block them if that happens. And let's see, is there anything else here?
I think that's it. Thank you very much, James. Okay. That was awesome.
And I will be sending I have a whole page of links and security tips that I'm going to send out to everyone tomorrow. So you can look out for that. And it might end up in your spam file in your email, but definitely look out for it. It's from I think it's from the library, from the info desk email. So that'll be out there tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.